In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in black and white emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White, where we are coloring conversations on the canvas of America. Tonight, we have a very special guest with us. We've got musician, artist, recording artist, Decevio DeAndre Meza. Decevio, popularly known by his stage name, Decevio, is a talented musician from Los Angeles, California, with a passion for rap, hip-hop, crump hop, and hypnodelic music. Growing up in South Central LA, specifically in the Crenshaw and 54th neighborhood, Decevio's journey in music began at the tender age of 12. Inspired by his father, a jazz artist, and his grandfather, a blues artist, Decevio was drawn to music from a young age. He recalls listening to his father's jazz records and being mesmerized by the improvisational solos and complex rhythms. His grandfather's blues stories and soulful melodies also left a lasting impression on him. Initially, Decevio excelled in basketball through grade school, and his dream was to become a professional athlete. However, a setback in junior high school led to him discovering his true calling. His cousin, who was already involved in music, encouraged him to try rap, and Decevio was hooked. He started writing rhymes and experimenting with beats, and soon he found himself spending more time in the studio than on the court. With no regrets, Decevio believes that everything happens for a reason, and his path was destined for music. At 14, he recorded his first song, The Mastermind, in a studio, making the beginning of his musical journey. The experience was exhilarating, and he knew then that he wanted to pursue music as a career. A significant milestone came when the legendary Snoop Dogg shouted him out in the song My People. Decevio was motivated to work hard and honored to receive recognition from the icon. He remembers listening to Snoop's album growing up and being inspired by his storytelling and flow. To be acknowledged by someone he admired was a dream come true. Decevio's message to his fans is simple yet powerful. Believe in yourself, trust God and your own heart. He wants his music to inspire others to chase their dreams and never give up on their passions. With his stage presence, focus, and discipline, Decevio is confident that he has what it takes to succeed in the music industry. Recently, Decevio dropped a single, Lord's Eyes, a tribute to mothers everywhere, just in time for Mother's Day. The song is a heartfelt expression of gratitude and appreciation for the women who have shaped his life. He is now gearing up to release Jazz Mania, a song for fathers in celebration of Father's Day. This upcoming release promises to be a fusion of jazz and hip hop, showcasing Decevio's versatility and creativity. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to the show Mr. Decevio.
Hello. What's going on? Honored to be here, and that was some introduction. Thank you.
I tell
Honored to be here, man. Thank you.
It's compelling. It's compelling.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
is there anything you'd like to add to your bio before we get into the show?
Well, I let's first like to start off giving God the glory, honor, and praise. Just to thank the Lord just for the opportunity to be able to express myself and allow me to be able to have my voice get heard right from the heart and soul. And those who are listening, I'm hoping that we can connect in a deep level, well enough to impact. And that's
Yes,
about
sir.
great game.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Well, so as we go down this wonderful path of your journey, you know, into your music career,
Hmm.
um, we're going to take it in phases, and let's start out by we'll bring it up. We'll start out with the past and how you got going in your music. And can you share a memorable moment from your childhood that sparked your interest in music?
Well, my father, I'm going to take it that far back. My father, as we spoke on our last interview, is a jazz musician, and you did mention that part of the introduction. It goes further even beyond him, which was my grandfather. We
Mhm.
all heard the story before, but we can share it again on this one. How my grandfather is very much a blues talent, played a harmonica and a bass, basically in his band. And as I said in that last interview, even going on this one, my father never knew him.
Mhm.
But we all know how the story goes. When he became a young adult, he went out searching for my grandfather and found him and discovered that he was a blues talent. Finding out, knowing that my father is a jazz talent.
Mhm.
So where it all started from that beginning led to me getting involved in hip hop and music, embedded in my soul and genetically it being a part of my musical experience through my father. So my father, like I mentioned, discovered that he has a father that plays blues, and him growing up doing that, he's a trumpet player in his band and finding out how good he was at by practicing and becoming as great as he was, passed it down to his son. So growing up, my experience it was my father playing in his rehearsal studio. And as a child, he used to bring me in playing with him, when he played, rehearsed with his boys and his group and his band members. And I remember sneaking in the back, playing the congos, getting on the arithmetic and involved with the music. And I remember at the time, some of the band members would stop in the middle of rehearsal saying, wait a minute, where's this sound coming from? Like, and my father, I remember him saying, like, oh man, that's not coming from nowhere, man. Maybe this guy's off key and blah, blah, blah. So they going back rehearsing, and here I am jamming in the back. And one of the band members, not the one that called it out, but another band member said, look at the little boy back there. Gabriel's son. That's the name of my father. My mother name's Gabriel. And they were like, look at Gabriel's son. He's back there. And my father came back there laughing, smiling, like, look at them. He knew from that moment that I had something. But I didn't see it at the time, but he did. So for my young childhood years, that was one of the moments I knew that I can pick up something musically at
Mhm.
that time, but not realizing, just, being a kid.
Mhm.
Being a kid, my father taking me around his members and he's showing me the ropes of being a musician. But I'm a child at the time, so fascinated by basketball. That was my thing at the time. But seeing that what he did, it didn't register me at the time, but it registered with my father, and he noticed it. So
Mhm.
when I was a child, he playing the big bad wolf and had us singing the song, and I was singing the song on time, on key. My
Mhm.
sister was singing and she was off key. My father thought it was funny, but he said, "No, Decevio, he has something." So that is the most memorable time in my life was being at moment as a child with my father and his experience rehearsing and playing off key
Mhm.
with some of his band members and stuff. So that was one of the greatest moments in cherishing. Hmm.
So, what was your first experience with music, and how did it shape your journey as an artist?
Well, we're going to go back to the moment that I shared before when I got booed off stage. So you gotta understand, sir, like when I perform places at all these talent shows and all these open mics, my goal was to get noticed, getting recognized. That was my main objective. And I'm hearing stories at this time now, we're going back where they didn't have the internet. We taking it that far back where, the music goes by rumors. So there was a
Right.
rumor going around that this little kid group get discovered, which later on became Crisscross in Atlanta, Georgia, discovered by Mr. Jermaine Dupri. Now, I didn't even know who Jermaine Dupri was. All I heard was there was these group, the little bunch of kids were discovered in the mall. So that registered to me through a rumor, back thinking to myself, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. If I can just go out, showcase my talent, then maybe somebody would discover me, which was a slap in the face. Now, before we get into that moment of me getting a slap in my face, I put myself out there. I applied. And we know the story of me getting booed off stage and coming back with vengeance. And when that had happened, at that moment, I'm assuming at that time somebody would discover me there. But it wasn't that at that moment in time, which was a slap in my face. But I never used it at that time as an excuse to say, like, you know what? It wasn't meant for me. I'm good. But I looked at it as an experience, a growing experience. I looked at it as like, you know what? Maybe I could try something different. That didn't work. The whole discovery thing, that didn't work. So my next move was trying to discover a studio. Because at the time I didn't have any resources, I didn't know anybody. So at that moment, I'm thinking like, okay, I gotta find somebody with a studio. That way I can be able to record some music and take the music as a demonstration, what we call demos, to these record labels on my own.
Right.
So we obviously know how that story came about, but we can put it into fruition and what it was. I had an ex-girlfriend at the time, and my ex-girlfriend, I used to tell her about how badly I wanted a studio, and she came across a gentleman that happened to have a studio, and we know how that story goes with that. So basically, that's how it began from my experience from being in that moment searching for a studio, but even before that, getting in front of people, but not realizing it wasn't my time, and thinking that someone would discover me. So I think that was one of the moments in my life that was a shaking up, but shake me in my moment of where I'm heading towards in terms of my destiny. So yeah, that's what that came about, sir. Yeah.
So, who were some of your earliest musical influences, and how did they guide your style?
I put it down with Michael Jackson and Prince, and the reason why I picked these guys, and I'm gonna talk about hip hop too, but we're gonna talk about Michael Jackson, Prince. Michael Jackson is an icon, man. The way this man started doing music at an early age, he reminded me so much of myself. I think that him, Prince, and myself have the same passion for music. I love music like the way he loved music. I love it. I wake up to, I go to sleep to it. You got to understand that Michael Jackson, he come from a family of musicians. Prince, his father played music. So it genetically, my father played. My grand, it's in our bones, it's in our genes to do what we love, and that's music. I think if those brothers were still alive, may they rest in peace, we would be all homeboys. We'd be all hanging out and chilling and coming up with creative ideas, even though they were in competitive rivalries, but they still have passions for one thing, and that is the music. And same thing with myself. So Michael Jackson, my Prince, are my heroes in music because they have so much passion for the music. Now we're talking about hip hop. Rap saved my life. Hip hop saved me. And some of my early on hip hop heroes were Rakim, KRS One, Coogee Rap, these cats. But I was afraid of these guys. They're very competitive. But the most artists that made the major impact with me, and I always say this, that paved it away for me, were people like X Clan, Brother J, Tupac Shakur,
Mhm.
Gangstar, Mr. Guru, and along with Das Effects and PM Don, these kind of groups
Oh
really
wow.
made a major impact and a major influence me in my life. Part of the reason is because their music was so unique and something special and something original. And I say that with PM Don, and I say that with Daz Effects. With Tupac, and I don't want to leave out LL Cool J because he was a hero to me. He's this guy's an icon. He's a swag nice type of artist that I looked up to. So the swagger and all that paid the way come for me with the whole pop card swag, West Coast kind of energy. But yet the pimp struck comes from my father, but even along with people like LL Cool J. But I say Tupac and Mr. Boy Wonder from Funky Town Pros and Guru spoke the truth. They told it like it is. These were artists that did not bite their tongue. They were like artists saying, hey, you know what? I don't care what people think. I'm going to say this, rather if you like it or not. These guys were not only street poets or street poets, these were artists that had something to say. Tupac, Mr. Guru, and I would say Funky Town Pros, Mr. Boy Wonder. These guys were heroes to me because I looked at their music as like they talked it to me, they speak it to me, they communicate me. Even I want to mention S Clan too, Brother J. Like these guys were speaking to me. But the artists that were unique and different, that was PM Don and I mentioned Daz Effects. I felt like their creativity was something special and something original. So if you put all that together, you know you come up with Mr. Decevio, Umisa. So these were the artists that were my major influences that created me and made me who I am today. And they created me. These are the people that were the mastermind scientists that were behind the music and created this monster of a machine artist, Decevio. And the name itself speaks for itself. Decevio Umisa. I mean, something special about that, brother. It's something special about that name that speaks in lights. And as people going to see, they're going to soon find out what they've been missing all these years. And that's one word, the music. Here we go. Yes, sir.
So what challenges did you face when you first started pursuing a career in
I
music?
say this and I say it again, my brother. Challenge began, my brother, right from the moment my mother put me out. Soon as the moment, that time, that I'm gonna go before that. See, my life was pretty much privileged, what we call ghetto fabulous. Man, I had a good privileged life. I had everything that I needed. My mother was a drug dealer. My mother was good at what she doing as a drug dealer. She made lots of money buying cars and homes and all these great things. And I was raised basically privileged. It wasn't till I decided to go with this thing called music, and that right there was the shift that had happened in my life. I went from going to Disneyland and Magic Mountain every year, every summer, from turning around all that, hitting rock bottom. So people got to understand about what Decevio is about. My experience is a testimony of me sharing through music my testimony to the world. It's like the soundtrack to people's lives. I got a song called Mistakes. I got a song called Rock Bottom. I got a song called Chronicle Issues. These songs are a testimony of my life that I'm experiencing. So for people out there to want to share the experience that I'm sharing, my experience with them as a soundtrack of their life, get into this kind of music. Because this music is the truth to your story of whatever you're experiencing in your life. So what it was, going back to the moment when my mother being a drug dealer, in answering your question about challenges, the challenge happened once I stood up to myself or even to my mother by letting her know, standing up to basically a bully, by letting this bully know, like, you know what, I'm going with this music thing. This is something I'm making a choice, decided to go with. And my mother begged to differ. And from that moment on, it became a challenge. And I'm talking about being dragged through the mud, going through the most hells, going through the most trials and tribulations, going through, like I said, dragged through the mud. Different type of character changing in my life to grow, be to the person I am today with a big, thick skin, not tolerating the bullshit, and being my true, authentic self. And that wouldn't have become if it wasn't my mother deciding to make that choice to say, you can't live here anymore. You can't
Mhm.
live here anymore. And her reason was is that she saw something different than I did see out of my own eyes. See, I saw a vision at the age of 12 years old. I saw a star at the age of 12 years old. I saw a star shining as a musician. But my mother, my family, they didn't see it that way. They were hardworking people. These people were convinced by society and the system that, hey, you know what? This is the world that I believe to live in by working under for somebody instead of having an entrepreneurial spirit, which I quite honestly believe that they had it in them. It's just that they didn't bring it out. It wasn't brought out of them for them to recognize. Because you understand, my mother was an entrepreneur. She was a business woman by selling drugs. So she understood it. But I think the life changed with her when she discovered religion. And that right there taught her to feel like, you know what? This going that, I don't want to say an easy route, but going this left route where religion and taking care of my family is a priority for her at the time. So she saw it a little bit different from what I did. So that right there became a challenge, my brother. Yes.
Mhm. So, how did your background and upbringing contribute to your musical identity?
You know what, brother? I only identify with kings. I only
Okay.
identify with true pharaohs, true gods. I only identify with authentic people. See, you understand? I was born a Taurus. I just had a birthday, ladies and gentlemen and ladies. I just had a birthday, and many blessings to those who can wish me a happy birthday. But yet, I, as a Taurus, we are a earth sign, which where or what I always call a heart sign, but a earth sign are down to earth people. I'm the realest dude you can ever meet. I'm the most down to earthest dude you can ever meet. I'm a type of guy you can actually come up to and have a conversation with. You get on going with this, my
Mhm.
brother. So because of that, that
Yes, sir.
that true identity is what I acknowledge by not only with my music, because the identity through my music gave me a reflection of who I am in my storytelling. As a testimony, as I shared
Mhm.
before, about my mistakes in the world and my testimony behind that, and not only that, with my song chronicle issue, how I landed in the hospital. But this is but that character change strengthened me. So we all know in life we have to go through the storm in order to get to the end of
Yep.
the light of the end of that rainbow. So that's
Mhm.
where it all began, my brother. It just me discovering me and digging deep down that rabbit hole and taking a lot of red pills and being unplugged from the matrix where I can see the world throughout my pineal gland for what it really is. So here's an artist that has something to say. And all the songs I
Mhm.
create, man, if I wanted to, my brother, I got over 1,000 music songs that I've created and recorded. And I don't need to record new music. You know what I'm saying, brother? I don't need to do it, but I do it because I love it. You know what I'm saying? But so much music can last me another decade. But I love what I do
Mhm.
so passionately that I love to create. So I'm always creating new projects, even though that I'm sitting fat with hundreds of thousands of songs in my archive. So I'm just picking and chewing
Mhm.
it through alphabetic order, like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Oh, this song I'm gonna do today. I got the Jazz Mania song that I'm doing for Father's Day. We all know about that's going to be dropping. And then on the 21st, I got my song Super Cluster is going to be dropping. And then July coming up, I got all new music coming out. Brother, this is an ongoing thing that I love to do just to make that impact. Whether people listening or not, I have something to say. And it's the gospel
Mhm.
of love, peace, and everlasting truth through music that would Decevio identify with. Ladies and gentlemen.
So, were there any significant life events that pushed you to dedicate yourself to
Okay,
music?
you asking about life events?
Yes, were there any significant life events that pushed you to dedicate
Brother,
yourself to
I ain't
music?
supposed to be here. Okay? I survived death
Mm.
3 times in my human life. The first one was my heart surgery. We spoke about that
Mhm.
before. I had two
Mhm.
open heart surgery as a child. This devil is a liar. He was trying to do his best to not have me here, but God be the glory. He knew that I was missioned to be here and to be able to be in a body of through him, be able to spread this gospel of love and peace and truth through the one word that I enjoy so much, and that's music. You get what I'm saying, my brother?
Mhm.
Beating that death, beating the car accident I was in at the age of 3 or 4 years of age, beating the bad car accident that car flipped off the road where I shouldn't have survived. And then the third thing and stuff, and this was recent years. I mean, recent, I want to say the year 2016, when what happened to eating certain particular foods, and I was eating a piece of chicken, and the chicken got stuck in my throat. And I just knew
Oh.
at that time I was out of this world. And luckily, before it got stuck, before it got trapped in my throat where I couldn't breathe, I called the ambulance on my own. The ambulance came and tried to do their best to try to rescue me, but they couldn't do it. And I never forget one of the paramedics, he told me this. He said, "Man, I can't do the high mid maneuver on you." And I'm choking it like and can't talk. And I'm trying to like, why not? And his thing was like, if
Mhm.
I do the hymen on you, the chicken, they felt the chicken inside my throat, but they said the chicken was in a place where if they do the hymen, it can be in a different place and it can instantly kill me. So the thing was, they took me to the hospital and I'm there slowly but surely dying without breath. Okay. And I'm sitting in the paramedic bed that they have there, and I'm looking at the guy pointing at my throat like, "Bro, I'm dying here. I'm losing my breath." And the guy's smiling, looking, and shrugging his shoulders up like it ain't nothing I could do about it. The most he said before this experience of me about to leave this world was him saying, "I got two things that's going to happen to you," and this is what he's saying. This is the paramedic. He said, either you're going to vomit all these things up, this thing this chicken that's stuck in your throat, or they're going to put a big tube down my throat to go suck this chicken out of my throat. There's the two things that's going to happen. So as I'm looking at this gentleman point at my throat like I can't breathe here, and you're not doing shit about it. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking like Tupac. These dudes are trying to get me out of this world. This devil's fire. They trying to cut. They don't want me here, man. They want me executed, brother. You know, only a few are chosen in this bitch. You know what I mean? And you got, the 1%. And I always grew to be part of the 1%. And I'm just looking at this like they're trying to get me out of here. Right. So next thing you know, I told God, and this is when you going back to about the word challenge. This was a challenge in my life. I remember telling God, whispering in my own head, couldn't talk, but under my mind, saying, "Okay, you know what? I'm gonna take it like a man. If it's my time to go, it's my time to go. It ain't shit I can do about it. It's my time to go. I'm taking it." Right when I said that, I bullshit you not, I saw my eyes closed and woke up, and not just literally woke up, but because I just lost. I took my last breath. It was the way. It was like a slow death choke, and I felt my last breath. And next thing you know, I vomited all over myself. And here's that paramedic guy walking up to me, and I never forget what he said. He said, "I bet you can breathe now." Let me tell you something, brother. The breath of life is a gift. It is a gift, brother, because that brother was not lying. What he told me at that moment by sharing with me, man, "I bet you can breathe again." And I was like, yeah. I couldn't even really talk, but I was nodding my head, yeah. But I felt this breath of life at that moment, my brother, where I can breathe. And and even at that moment, I never ever, even before that moment, I never took life for granted. And most people say they can see their whole life flash in front of them before that moment. But I didn't see these things. What I saw was a man that was at pure at heart. Pure as heart. And I'm talking about a heart of gold. But it wasn't my time. And I can breathe. And I never forget, I saw the doctor, and they didn't do anything about it, but just send me home. But the strong strength about your boy, what I did after that, I didn't let the fear overtake me. I went back and ate the rest of the damn chicken. Because I said to myself, come on, give it to your boy. Give it to your boy. You know what I mean, brother? I was like, I ate the rest of the chickens. I said to myself, when you get knocked off the horse, you got to get your ass back up on that damn horse if you're a true soldier and you're a true warrior. And that's exactly what I did, my brother. Yes.
Oh wow. Oh
Mm-hmm.
wow. That now, sometimes I think when you hear some stories like that, and for a lot of people, it's like it seems like it gets to that point to where, okay, is this the end or is there something else going to happen? So just in that situation, I'm sure that not only were you more than just relieved, but I mean, like, what were some of the thoughts and feelings that you were having when you did vomit the chicken up and you could breathe
What,
again? What were you
what,
thinking? What were you
well,
feeling?
the interesting thing about that, like I said, the first person I said was a paramedic guy with a big
Mm,
smile over his face, almost like an angel in the flesh, coming up to me with a smile
mhm.
face and saying, I bet you can breathe now, huh? You know, you know what I'm saying, brother? To me, it was like, it would, I, at that moment, I thought I died. I thought I was dead
Right,
because I took my last breath.
right.
This thing was slowly but surely choking me. And it was a slow choke.
Mhm,
It wasn't like instantaneously. It was slow
mhm.
choke. And then once I took the last breath, I vomited myself and I felt this gasp of air. So it was my mind was blank. I wasn't thinking like if I'm alive. All I know, this angel in the flesh is right here in front of me, hovering over me and saying, "I bet you can breathe now." And I just nodded my head like,
Oh,
"Yes." But see, the point of this whole story is, and the moral of it is like, life is not took for granted, brother. And it's a gift, and it's
mm,
the breath of life that we breathe that some of us take for granted by. And all I'm sharing this story by letting people know is that life is a gift, brother. Don't take it for granted. Because when I felt that breath of life, I felt the breath of life in my soul
mm.
that I was seeing another day. And I knew, not to say if I was invincible, but I knew that at that moment, I serve a purpose. I'm here. I'm here for a reason. And that devil can't take me out. And God has his purpose and will me in this world for me to be able to do great things. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I came to
Mhm.
a substance of an understanding about my life at that moment. Praise God be the glory. Cheers.
Oh. So, can you describe the first song you ever wrote and the inspiration
I
behind it?
started writing songs at 12 years of age. Check Out My
Mhm,
Rhymes is one of the greatest songs that I wrote when I was 12 years old age. And I had a song called because my cousin was the one that convinced me to do to get in music. My cousin, cousin that was around the same age as I was, and he was involved in gangs. And I told you, like I said in my the last interview, how I always dreamt of playing basketball. And the
mhm,
school destroyed that dream of mine by letting me know that I couldn't play for the school because of my grades. And as I said before, I never liked school. And there was no way that I
mhm,
was going to bust my balls to playing for a school that I didn't even like going. So they destroyed
mhm.
that dream of mine. But then here's my cousin rescuing me at that moment, telling me or asking me to get involved in music. And at that time, like I said, I felt like no, I didn't want to get involved with it because all the competition that was out at the time. I mean, we talking Rock Him, we're talking KRS One, we're talking Coogee Rap, we're talking Big Daddy Kane, we're talking all these great heroes that had skills. And I'm so glad, praise
Mhm.
God, that I didn't get around at that time competing with these guys because they owned it. And I'm just a little boy at the
Right.
time. So my cousin convinced me to get into the music thing, which I surprisingly that he did, but he got me involved with it. And because of that, one of the first songs I written along with him was my song called Check Out My Rhymes. And
Mhm.
being young as I was when you first starting out, it's not as sharp as it is, but you're
Mhm.
beginning and your early development and your talent. So a lot of things have to be developed talent as you evolve and experience things and become a better version of yourself to master your craft. But I was young, and practice makes perfect. And if you apply yourself, you can be able to do great things being a songwriter. So I started writing poetry and writing songs at that time. But Check Out My Rhymes was one of the first one. And I'd like to tell that story about the Mastermind. Mastermind was a song where we mentioned on an introduction, was my first demo song, which was interesting.
Mhm.
And I made it through in high school at the time. I was at age about 15, I believe. I think I was like 14, 15. I used to always rap in the schoolyard. And I never forget,
Mhm.
this Hispanic gentleman comes up to me and he said to me, "Hey man, do you have a studio?" And I told him no. I don't even know anybody with a studio. And he was like, "Hey man, I was wondering if I can record you." And at that time, I used to walk places. I'm 14 years old. I didn't have a vehicle, so I used to walk places. But I had a buddy of mine that I went to the same high school, and he rapped too at the time. And this guy basically had a car, but he was also jealous and upset a little bit by the fact that this gentleman didn't go up to him asking him about recording a song. But he took it in the grass grain and decided to take me there. And I recorded my first song, which was Mastermind. And that was the first song that I actually recorded on a cassette tape, and I still have that tape to this day. But it's interesting, I got expelled out of that high school that I went with, and I no longer see any of those guys again. But the other guy that took me there, him and that Hispanic gentleman that had the recording studio, and I getting acquainted with each other and started making music. But I was no longer out of the picture because I got expelled. So that's the name of the story.
So let's move forward here and bring it into the present. And can you tell us about your latest projects or releases, and what's the story
Come on,
behind it?
let's break it on down. Jazz Mania playing in my background. Man, I decided to fuse, and you can hear it by the introduction, jazz music and hip hop. Some of the great heroes of me before me already did it, but I wanted to do it in this day and age. We talking about Mr. Guru, which he made Jazzmatazz album. Tribe Called Quest. They did with a lot of jazz in their music. And a few other talented hip hop gods made great music and jazz. But that was in that era. We in a whole new era, and we in a whole new century. And because of that,
Right.
I decided to say, you know what? I don't want to forget about our fallen soldiers that made a significant in music with the beginning of sound with jazz, knowing that my father's a jazz musician, but some of the greats like Miles and all the great heroes in jazz, man, that were, Busy Guthrie. I'm hoping I pronounced his right name right, but a lot of them great heroes,
Dizzy
yeah,
Gillespie.
that did a lot of the jazz tunes in a heyday. And I feel like at the end of the day, we don't want to forget about these kings. So I'm trying to bring their music back to life by fusing hip hop along with jazz and get a good feel sound and not forget about the music because it paved the way for hip hop and myself and other great talents out there. And we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for them. So I just wanted to acknowledge these great heroes in music. So that's what Jazzmatazz is about. And my next one dropping on the 21st, which is called Super Clusters. And part of the reason I did this, man, we all know that AI is about to take over. But I feel like it's forgetting about one thing, and that's the music. And a lot of time, this AI, I'm seeing a lot of these, I don't even want to say their names, man, but a lot of these guys are trying to infuse AI with bots, artists, and creating these bots to create sound through that. And I think, quite honestly, if you ask my opinion, I think it's kind of selfish of some of these people that bring it up because they trying to make all the money and make the money come to them, but they forgetting about the real talent. And that's the ones who created it. So I feel like they're just going that route, almost like an easy route to say, like, you know what, to make it simple, we don't have to deal with these artists. We can create our own artists through these bots. And that's what Super Clusters about. It's kind of pulling the cards about that. I mean, the cover I did is so sick. And if you see it, it's like a futuristic bot, but look humanoid. and have a brain that's out, but this brain is an AI brain. And it's me
Oh,
telling the truth about that. Because Decevio, your music is always about the truth. And me telling it like it is. And it's just me telling it like it is about the superclusters and about planets, about who we are in the universe and where we come from. That's been forgotten about or even spoken upon. So that's what superclusters is about. And it drops on the 21st, first day of summer. And it's a banger too, because it's not only me telling the truth about that, but I'm just like S Clan and all these great dudes that did music. I make jams out of it. So you not only you know what I mean, listening and get a great strong message out of it, you can get on this dance floor, you can jam to it. And that's what Decevio your music is based on. So Jazz Mania is going to drop on the 15th on Father's Day. And shout out to all the fathers out there. Much love, because y'all the seed planters of this planet. And don't get it twisted, man, because we are the seed planters of this planet that bring forth life. And praise God through our women that they can go through our women to bring forth life, but yet it's the seeds been planted by our fathers. So I just want to honor the fathers out there. And this song also is a dedication, Jazz Mania, I'm sorry, is a dedication to my own father. And I dedicated to him on this particular song and other jazz kings and jazz greats, letting them know that you ain't been forgotten about. Mr. Decevio acknowledged you. So that's what it is, my brother.
so how would you describe your current sound compared to your earlier work?
Man, it's a huge difference. As I said a moment ago, like starting off, you're in your beginning stages and you're not fully developed. When I made that
Mhm.
song Mastermind, the mix wasn't as good. It wasn't a good mix. It was just a recording. But I was excited about it because, like I said, it's my first song, and being
Mhm.
recorded. And I still have the song to this day on a cassette tape, as I mentioned before. But yes, it's a big, huge difference because this day and age, we understand how the studio worked, the ins and out of it, the engineering, the mix, the mastering, the sound, the vocals, all of that in one. I digitally, I know how to. I became a mastermind digitally to know how to record songs. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So it's a huge difference from my beginning stages until now, and the sound evolves. It evolves a lot from the moment I started off in my early days of career in music and this day and age. So if people were to listen to early Deceiver, like my first album was called The Message of Life the World Would Never Know. If you listen to that album, it's a good, strong message in that album. That's why it's called The Message of Life the World Would Never Know. And I took that concept from the Tootsie Roll commercial because when I first started rapping, my hip hop name was Tootsie Roll. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that was my hip hop. Now this is before the song Tootsie Roll. You know what I mean? Before the song Tootsie Roll, that the dance song, that was my hip hop name. And part of the reason why I named it because I'm a chocolate dude and stuff, and I was very slim at the time. I was a real skinny dude. So that was like my little hip hop name. It wasn't until I met my ex-girlfriend at the time, was like, she loved my name Decevio so much, and she was like, hey, you need to go with that name because that name's unique and it's something original, something different about that. And I, as much as I love the women I dated in my past, where I respected their opinion so much, where I was just like, you really think that I should do that? And they were like, yeah, because the Tootsie Roll thing, even with the dance song came out, that took it for a loop. So the whole thing with the Decevio came about. And when it came down to the music, it really introduced my sound, going back to when I was discussing the Tootsie Roll thing from that commercial that they had, the Tootsie Roll Pop. And whatever it is, I think I see becomes a Tootsie Roll. You know what I mean? When I that was a concept I took from that by saying the message of life would the world would never know. Because the guy licked the little owl licked it to how many licks to get to a Tootsie Roll Pop? And then the guy said, the world would never know. So I thought that concept would be dope for my album. And if you listen to the album, you can hear my blood, sweat, and tears for my voice lyrically in that album. But the production was poor. It was a poor production and it was a poor mix. But thank God the album came out in 2001. And at that time, CDs were still in, and people didn't care. It wasn't a big deal at that time. If I would have put it out now, people would be calling that album trash. But at that time, it was looked at as a great album because of the fact of the timing of it. But like I said, it was poor production and it was poor mixing. But the evolution from that, when you learn from that, because this is other people that had their studios. This is not me having my own studio. It's other people having their studios, and they didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know what they were doing, brother. So it took me deciding to invest in my own studio to be able to learn how to manage the idea of me engineering my own sound and my own music. But I took a lot of failures and me learning from those failures to become the masterpiece or mastering my craft in engineering mixing. And that took some time. But at first, it was an analog. It started a lot of analogs and stuff, which I didn't know how to do. So I was in a music band, and most of the music band members knew how to mix and master. I didn't know how to do it because at that time, like I said, everything was analog. So they had wave files and all these sort of things that I didn't even have a clue. I didn't go to school for these sort of things. You get what I'm saying? But it wasn't until I met,
Right.
and I have to shout out this guy named Mr. Malky Means King. Great talented dude, that white guy that came about in my path and pointed the ropes in the direction of where digital is. And once he introduced me to digital, it was a wrap. It was just like, now I can learn to be able to mix and master and engineer and do these sort of things on my own digitally. So that's the big significance, my brother. Yeah. So that's the change from that sound from my first album, which is The Message of Life, The World Will Never Know, and the evolution evolving to the sounds that I'm making today digitally. So shout out to Malky Means King.
So, what do you hope listeners take away from your most recent music?
This, like I said, I want to be the soundtrack in people's lives. I hope the story that I'm telling that people can relate. Even those who don't relate, it's still a story to tell, you know? And I have something to say. Even with the Jazz Mania song, this is something I have to say. We birthing jazz music where it's been forgotten about in this day and age of music, especially the heroes that fought in their era, in their time and era, to get their sound out there. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like as an artist, is a rebirth, not only with hip hop, but with jazz that paved the way for us to fuse their sound with my sound to collaborate something unique and new in this day and age. Like I said, things like that have been done as an artist I mentioned, but not in this era. So I'm that face of that to give them a light to that sort of thing. So these new songs, it's just me having something that can get on the dance floor with, jam to, enjoy the music, kick it, drive through, or whatever it is that you can relate to sound and music. But the biggest thing in my truth is be able to speak this truth to the hearts and souls of the people of the world that can gravitate to this kind of truth in music.
So tell us this. How has your artistry evolved in the past few years?
This is, like I said a moment ago, how it evolved from the album that I did called The Message of Life, The World Would Never Know. It evolved from the production and the sound. The lyricism got better as an MC, but as an MC, I always was dope. But people were sleeping on my dopeness. But I didn't care because I had something to say. Rather, if I'm speaking to one person, at least that one person is listening.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Well enough for that one person to tell the second person, for that second person to tell the third person, that third person to tell the fifth person, et cetera, going on and on for to spread the word out about this Decevio Yamiza guy that have a unique, different sound that came from poor sound in the beginning to a magnificent sound in this day and age. So that's the evolution of Decevio.
You know, I will have to say this, and I'm sure that I want the audience to hear this, is because I remember when I first heard your music, right?
Mhm.
And when I heard your music on LinkedIn, And
Mm,
so I instantaneously sent you that message because I wanted to know more about your music because the style that it presented, it was powerful in its own way, but the message is in the music.
hmm.
And so just getting to know you and your music and the stories that you're telling, it's more than just compelling because it's something that, once you really listen, because I'm a lyric, I love listening to lyrics.
Yeah.
I love words. And so just when just listening, and that's what I think a lot of people should do a lot of times with music anyway. But when listening to the music, and listening to the messages that the things that you were saying, I'm assuming that that is why your fan base is growing the way it is because people are listening to the authenticity and the things that you're saying. So, with that being said, though, are you like largening? Is your production crew getting larger? I mean, are people doing some things to really continue your marketing to expand it? Has that any of that grown as well with your progress?
Let me tell you something, my brother. You know what's growing?
Hmm.
It's the people.
Hmm.
Decevio is already grown, brother. The people are just playing catch up. So you gotta understand. People say things like, excuse me, let me get a drink real quick. I'm gonna kill you with this one. People always say things like, this person's ahead of their time. It's not like Decevio, Tupac, and all these people are ahead of their time. It's just that the people are playing catch up to be able to catch up what they up on. See, I've been up on this. Tupac, when
Hmm.
he was alive, he been up on those sort of things, right? Excuse me,
Hmm.
telling you the truth at that moment. But a lot of people don't grasp the things that they're saying when he was alive because they look at it and like, what is this dude talking about? But it took him dying. But it's not him being him dying. If he was alive to this day, all the years later, people start catching up on about with the truth that he was speaking at the time when he was alive. And now I'm in the body of God and I'm alive. I've been talking about this stuff. I've been saying it 10 years ago, 8 years ago. Many things that I've been saying that it's even in my music that people are slow to catching up with, but they still soon to catch up. That's why
Right.
my music hasn't blown up like it's supposed to quite yet because people are playing catch up. But guess what? People are awakening. Oh, yeah. The
Mhm.
people awake. So it's not, brother, I'm already secure with my team. I'm already secure who I
Mhm.
am as a man in terms of your authentic self. I'm secure who I am. I'm just waiting for the people to
Mhm.
catch up, which they are. You know what I mean? It's the evolution of the people that have to be able to play catch up to get a better understanding of how my music works. See, they're used to sounds that is the same. But now I'm slowly but surely seeing people coming out of the woodwork saying, like, all this today music is trash. I'm sick and tired
Mhm.
of hearing these same artists with no talent coming out sounding alike. They're saying people that are of age, you guys need to keep going and hit us with the great music that you deserve because we miss that art authenticity in music. We're missing that. And we all knew that the kind of music that you and I grew up listening to from the greats that I mentioned, but even in R&B from the Jodeci's, from the Keith Sweats to the Boys and Men, to the Marvin Gayes, to the Al Greens, to the Luther Vandross, et cetera, these great heroes that paved the way. It's a lot of these talent in this day and age that got that same type of artisticity and sound. But guess what? As I said before, and I say it again, they're being all overlooked. They don't have the high
Mhm.
views. They don't have the high likes. They don't have the high millions and millions of followers and all that other stuff that there's things that they pay. They don't have that. But they have one thing, and that's the talent. But guess what?
Right.
It's changing, it's shifting. And now they're
Mhm.
focusing primarily on the talent, on the talent,
Mhm.
even the labels. Like, you know what? They're losing a lot of money because a lot of these talents
Yeah.
are fly by microwave people and stuff, but they losing so much money. We need that articity back. We need that raw talent. We need some of that Decevio Yamiza. You know what I'm saying, my brother? We need some of that authenticity type of music out there. And that's what my music is based on. It's the truth. My name Decevio means speak truth. So I can't help but tell it like it is. But even with R&B, I dabble with R&B music, but my music is always based on that. It's always based on me spreading love and being part of the
Mhm.
solution to the problems of the world. So spreading peace,
Mhm.
spreading love, and spreading everlasting truth is what Decevio Yamiza is based on. So going back to that in evolution is through the people. Because like I said, man, I'm
Mhm.
secure. I'm good. My team is good. I'm just waiting for y'all to catch on up.
Mhm. So what are some of the key themes or messages in your current music?
Like I said a moment ago, I just said it a second ago. Me telling like it is, me speaking the truth, me spreading peace, me spreading love. That's what Decevio music. It's really self-explanatory. That's what my music. That's the formula that I came up with. It's not me just doing it. Man, I'm doing the works of the Lord. Man, I'm doing God's work. I'm here as obedient servant. I understand my calling in life, and my calling is to serve. And my service is music, but it's bigger than me, and it's bigger than money. And my music is to impact the world with those three things, which is love, peace, and truth. The truth comes from me rapping.
Mhm.
When I rap, that's what I love about hip hop and rap, because rap has something to say, and I have something to say. NWA said, fuck the police. But it was a lot of police brutality growing up in South Central, where I'm from, and other parts of the ghettos in the world, that police brutality was going on. We go far as back as with the Black Party, Panther Party started existed. Police brutality was going in Oakland and Bay Area hoods, where they was knocking little black kings over, and they decided to take the initiative and put the matters in their hands, because they know that they was fighting against that one word, and that's the enemy, which was the police, and bad police. So NWA, their objective was not saying all police are all bad. It's just these corrupt cops, particularly taking their job a little bit too serious, knocking young black kings over in neighborhoods, that they had to voice it. So that's what the Decevio music is based on. It's me telling like it is, like my song that I got called Snakes in Wonderland. My song called
Mhm.
Thank the Whites. If you watch the video of me expressing myself lyrically, you would get the idea of what I'm talking about. Somebody got to say it. I don't see nobody else in this
Mhm.
day and age speaking the truth. We don't have the Chuck D's no more. We don't have the X Clan no more. Where we at with this music, brother? But you got this Decevio young king coming out in this world saying, like, you know what? If they ain't going to do it, I'm going to do it. If they're not going to spread love, we don't got R. Kelly no more. And that was a great talent, man. I know everybody goes in on this dude, but we don't have R. Kellys no more. We don't have the Tory Lanes no more. Tory Lane and R. Kelly, these guys are in jail, but they spread love in music. See, we had Marvin Gaye. He's no longer around. We had Barry White. We had Luther Vandross. All of these guys are no longer around, but they spread love in their music. So who we got this day and age? All we going to do is continue spreading hate in the world. Hate is in the world, and it's dominant. We got ICE going on here in LA and stuff like that, where these crooked people are throwing our kings in jail. You know what I mean? Inside, and
Mhm.
we're not living our human freedom. So we need this
Mhm.
music, my brother. We need love. We need peace. We need this truth. We need somebody like myself spreading this love. And I'm not going to stop, brother, until it's going hard and everybody listening and somebody giving them a voice.
Mhm.
Our Tupacs is no longer here no more. We don't have the DMXs on here no more. We don't have the people spreading these love and spreading this kind of music out there no more. But the Decevio's here to rescue it. I'm here to rescue. I'm here to rescue music and bring it back to artistic music, where you can get that feel good of power of love, peace, and truth to the energy world. Mm.
So, how do you keep yourself inspired as an artist in today's music industry?
The music itself inspires me. God inspires me. It's self explanatory, my brother. God is my biggest inspiration. I always say this, and I say this over and over again. Music is spiritual to me. When I create songs, it's not premeditated. I don't go around saying, like, you know what? I'm gonna start rapping about trees. You know what I'm saying, man? The music tells me what to say when I'm creating in the creative process. I never question the
Right,
pen. I don't do that.
right,
You know what I'm saying? And
right.
it's trippy because I'm a fan of my own music as well as the people that listen to it. And